All right, homework day 17 is writing the equation in slope-intercept form given the slope and a point. An equation in slope-intercept form looks like this. Y equals mx plus b. The number in front of the x is the slope of your line. The number on the end is your y-intercept. So they call it slope-intercept form. It says a line passes through the point negative 6, 5 and has a slope of negative 2. Write the equation for this line. Well, since I know the slope is negative 2, I can put that in place of the m, which is right in front of the x on my equation. So I'm going to write y equals negative 2x plus b. In order to find the equation of my line, I need to find the y-intercept. I'm going to do that by using this given point. If x is negative 6 and y is negative 5, we can plug them in and solve for b. So, putting negative 6 in for my x and 5 in for my y, I'm going to have 5 equals negative 2 times negative 6 is 12 plus some number b. Then all I have to do is solve this for b by moving the 12 to the other side. So I'm going to minus my 12. Negative 7 is going to be my answer for b. So I still need to write the equation in this form. Y equals, my m value was negative 2, so negative 2x. My y-intercept, I'm not going to put plus a negative 7. Plus a negative 7 is just minus 7. And so y equals negative 2x minus 7 would be the equation of my line. So a line has a slope of negative 6 and passes through the point 1, 3. Write the equation for the line. Again, I know my slope is negative 6, so I know right away I can put that in for m. Y equals negative 6x plus some number b, which is my y-intercept. So again, we know that it goes through the point 1, 3. X is 1 and y is 3. So 3 is going to equal negative 6 times 1 plus some number b. And then I have to solve that. So 3 is going to equal negative 6 times 1 is negative 6 plus some number b on the end. We want to solve that for b. So all we need to do is move our 6 to the other side. Adding 6, 9 is going to be my y-intercept, my b value. So putting that in my equation, y is going to equal negative 6x because my slope was negative 6 plus 9 because my y-intercept came out to be 9. So y equals negative 6x plus 9. One more of those. This time we got a fraction in there because everybody loves fractions. The slope here on this one is negative 3/4. So y equals negative 3/4 x plus some number b that we need to find. Again, it gives us the point. So x is 4 and y is negative 6. So negative 6 is going to equal negative 3/4 times 4 plus some number b. Well, they made this one kind of nice because I can do some canceling. So 4 goes into here once and into here once. Negative 3/4 times 4 is just negative 3. So negative 6 equals negative 3 plus b. Solving that for b, I'm going to add my 3. So negative 3 is going to be my y-intercept. So my equation, y equals negative 3/4 x, since negative 3/4 was my slope, minus 3, since negative 3 was my y-intercept. Now taking that same concept, now moving it down to when I have a graph and how I can write the equation of my line. So again, we want to write the equation of the line. We know that we want it in the form of y equals mx plus b, with the m being the slope and the b being the y-intercept. So first of all, I'm going to find my slope. To find my slope, remember that it's the change in y over the change in x. The formula said y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So my points. This point here is at 0, 0. This point over here is at 7, negative 7. So the y value from point 2, negative 7, minus the y value from point 1. Negative 7 minus 0 is negative 7. The x value from point 2 minus the x value from point 1, so 7 minus 0. 7 minus 0 is 7. We said if we had the graph, we could count the slope. We went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the right. 7 down and 7 to the right. Of course, we want to simplify that. A negative 7 over 7 is just negative 1 for my slope. My y-intercept, where does it touch the y-axis? Well, I happen to have it circle from that point. It touched the y-axis at 0. The y value is 0 of that point. So my b value is going to be 0. So plugging those two things into my equation, y is going to equal negative 1x plus 0. Of course, we want to simplify that. This one actually has two things you can do. Negative 1x is just negative x, and we really don't need plus 0 on the end, because if we add 0 to something, it doesn't change its value. So in the best form, y equals just a negative x. Most of them you can't do too much simplifying to. This one just happened to have both things you could do. So a negative 1x is just negative x, and then we don't need plus 0. Number 5 then, writing the equation of the line, y equals mx plus b, starting by finding my slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I always start on the left. My first point is at negative 5, 6. And my second point is at 0, 4. So finding my slope, 4 minus 6. 4 minus 6 would give me negative 2. And 0 minus a negative 5. 0 minus a negative 5. When I subtract a negative, I end up adding. And 0 plus 5 is 5. Checking my slope, I went down 2 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exactly what I did. So we know y is going to equal negative 2/5 x. Make sure that x goes behind that fraction, not down on the bottom with the 5. Then I've got to find my y-intercept. My y-intercept, where is it touching the y-axis? It's touching at 4. So plus 4. So y equals negative 2/5 x plus 4 is the equation of that line. Number 6, same kind of thing. I'm going to start by finding my slope. So the coordinates of my 2 points, negative 5, negative 5. And this one is at 0, negative 1. So y2 minus y1. Negative 1 minus a negative 5. Since that's subtracting a negative, negative 1 plus 5 gives me 4 on the top of that fraction. I went 1, 2, 3, 4 up. Exactly what I did. 0 minus a negative 5. Again, I'm subtracting a negative, so I change it to adding. 0 plus 5 is 5. So I went up 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's exactly what I did. So when you have that graph there, you can always check and make sure you're doing the slope formula correctly by counting. So y is going to equal 4/5 x, and then finding my y-intercept. My y-intercept, my numbers are kind of smushed together there, but my y-intercept, where it touches the y-axis, is at negative 1. And again, we're not going to do plus a negative 1. We're just going to put minus 1 on the end. And so y equals 4/5 x minus 1 would be the equation of my line. Now we're going to write the equation of the line where the y-intercept isn't marked exactly. And so we're going to go back like we did those first ones and have to use one of our ordered pairs. Again, y equals mx plus b, m being the slope. So my first point is at negative 4, 3. My second point is at 1, 6. So finding my slope, the y minus the y, 6 minus 3. and then the x minus the x. 1 minus negative 4. 6 minus 3 is 3. 1 minus a negative 4, I change it to adding, so 5. So I check. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up 3 and over 5. So I know y equals mx plus b. I know my m is 3/5, so y equals 3/5 x plus b. Now going back to those first problems, I'm going to use either one of these 2 points in for the x and the y so that I can find the b value like we did on those first problems. Just because both of these are positive, I'm going to use this one. So 1 in for x, 6 in for y. 6 equals 3/5 times 1 plus b. So 6 is going to equal 3/5 plus b. To solve that, I have to minus my 3/5. 6 minus 3/5 equals b. Now you could do that on your calculator. If you're not using your calculator, the easy thing to do is take the denominator times your whole number. 5 times 6 gives me 30/5. 30/5 minus 3/5 is 27/5 for your y-intercept. Now check to see if that makes sense. 27/5 is 5 and 2/5. Does my line touch the y-axis at 5 and 2/5? It's a little bit above the 5, so yes, that would make sense. I still have to answer the question. Write the equation. My equation says y equals 3/5 x, because my slope was 3/5, plus 27/5, because that's my y-intercept. And that's my answer that I'm going to type in. Now sometimes they don't give you the graph, and that's why I always have you do the formula for slope, because yeah, we know if we have the graph, we could have just counted the slope instead of using the formula, but sometimes they're not going to give you the graph and you have to use the formula. So I'm going to find my slope, the y from point 2 minus the y from point 1, so negative 4 minus 1. The x value from point 2 minus the x value from point 1, so 2 minus negative 4. So I'm going to get negative 5. This is going to be 2 plus 4, so 6. So y is going to equal negative 5, 6, x plus some number b that we have to find. Again, doesn't matter which one of those 2 points you use. I'm going to go ahead and just use the first one. So x is going to be negative 4, y is going to be 1. So 1 is going to equal negative 5, 6 times negative 4 plus some number b. Working with fractions, think of this as being over 1, I can reduce. So this is going to be negative 2 and this is going to be 3. Negative times a negative is a positive, so that's going to be 10/3. Or use your calculator. Negative 5, 6 times negative 4 should give you positive 10/3. So 1 is equal to 10/3 plus b. In order to solve that, I've got to move this to the other side. So I've got to subtract my 10/3. 1 minus 10/3. Again, I have to have a common denominator, so if I just take that whole number times my 3, 3/3 is equal to 1. 3/3 minus 10/3 is negative 7/3 for my y-intercept, my b value. So now I have to write the equation of my line. So y is going to equal my slope, negative 5, 6 x, my y-intercept minus 7/3. Number 9, write the equation of my line. So, y equals mx plus b. I'm going to find my slope first, my points. This point here is at 2, 6. This point here is at 5, 2. So, 2 minus 6 over 5 minus 2. 2 minus 6 would be negative 4. 5 minus 2 would be 3. I went 1, 2, 3, 4 down, and 1, 2, 3 over. Yep, that looks good. So y equals negative 4/3 x plus some number b we have to find. We still have to find that y-intercept. We can see it's up here above the 8, but what is it exactly? We'll find out. Doesn't matter again which point you want to use. I'm just going to use the top one. So I'm going to put 2 in for x and 6 in for y. So 6 is going to equal negative 4/3 times 2 plus some number b. Now here this is 2 over 1. I can't cancel, so I'm going to have negative 8 over 3. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. 3 times 1 is 3. To solve that, I have to take 6 and add my 8/3 to find my b value. Again, I'm going to take the 3 times the 6. 3 times 6 would give me 18/3. So 18/3 plus 8/3, adding those together, is 26/3. So my b value is 26/3. I still need to write my equation. So y is going to equal negative 4/3 x plus my 26/3. If I check that out, 26/3, 3 goes into 26 8 times. I've got 2 left over, so this is 8 2/3. If I check, does that look like where it crosses my line? Sure does. Looks pretty close to 26/3 up there. So again, they do this so that when you get to the assessment, they don't have to ask you the 2 previous kind of things. If you can do this one, then they know, oh, you can probably do those 2 other ones because they led right into each other. 10, 11, and 12. These ones are pretty easy to do once you know what to do. However, they're also easy to forget. What you need to do is the vertical and the horizontal lines were those special cases we had. If I had x equals some number, I knew that my line went vertical. If I had y equals some number, I knew my line had to go horizontal. Well, if I want to write the equation for the horizontal and the vertical line that touches this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, negative 8, 1, if I am going to do the horizontal line, the horizontal line that touches that point has to start y equals. And if I drew my horizontal line through that point, it's going to be the same as the y value of this point, which is 1. If I am going to do the vertical line that touches that point, we know it has to say x equals. It's this line that goes straight up and down, if I could draw straight, and it would be touching at the x value of that point, which is negative 8. And so, really all you have to do is look at your ordered pair. You know this is the x value and this is the y value. The horizontal line, the y value is 1. The vertical line, the x value is negative 8. So number 11, it says write the equation for the horizontal and vertical lines passing through the point negative 3, negative 1. I know this is my x and this is my y. Horizontal lines always are y equals. Well, the y value of that point is negative 1. Vertical lines always have to start x equals. X equals negative 3. Now, keep in mind, it does say write the equation. So if you just put in negative 1 and negative 3, it's going to count it wrong. You have to have the y equals and the x equals because it makes a difference. So number 12, it says write the equation for the vertical and horizontal lines passing through the point negative 7, 3. Again, this is my x and this is my y of my point. This time it asks for the vertical line first. The vertical line is the one that starts x equals. So x is going to equal negative 7. The horizontal line is the one that starts y equals, so y equals 3. And 13, 14, 15 want you to write the, or not write the equation, want you to figure out the slope of the line parallel to the given line. We know if it's in y equals mx plus b, that the slope of the line is the number in front of the x. So since this equation is already solved for y, we know that the slope is negative 1/2. The slope of the line that's parallel. If they're parallel, they should be slanted the same. So the slope should be the same. -1/2. The slope of the line perpendicular to the line. What they're going to tell you for the slope of the line perpendicular is that you're going to do opposite the reciprocal. So if that slope is -1/2, I'm going to have a positive 2/1, which of course can be simplified into just 2. They'll tell you when you look on the ALEX program that if you take the parallel slope and the perpendicular slope and you multiply those two things together, -1/2 times 2/1, you always get an answer of -1. Not that that makes a whole lot of difference, but you'll see it in the ALEX explanation, and it's just a fact that happens to be true if you're wondering why they put it there. Now, in number 14, notice the line is not solved for y. So before I can answer the questions, I need to rearrange it and put it in slope-intercept form where you are solved for y. So we did this before when we found the slope of the line. We need to move our x to the other side. So -6y is going to equal, since this is a -9, we're going to make it a +9x minus 4. We then need to divide. So we're dividing by our -6. Y is going to equal -9/6 reduces down to 3/2 x. And then we have a negative over a negative, so plus 4/6 reduces down to 2/3. So what is the slope of the line parallel? Well, it should be the same as the slope of this line, -3/2. What is the slope of the line perpendicular? Well, since this is negative, this one's going to be positive, and it's going to be the reciprocal, so positive 2/3. So -3/2 would be the parallel line, positive 2/3 is the perpendicular line. So it doesn't have anything to do with this y-intercept, just happened to be a coincidence there. Opposite my reciprocal. And the last one on number 15, same thing. If I have the line 7x plus 4y equals 3, and I want the slope of the line that's parallel and the slope of the line that's perpendicular, first thing I need to do is solve that for y. So 4y is going to equal, this is a positive 7x, so I'm going to make it -7x plus 3. I then have to divide by my 4. So y equals -7/4 x plus 3/4. Watch to see if they switch these around, because I believe sometimes they do. I didn't when I typed up my paper, but sometimes I think they switch them. What is the slope of the parallel? Parallel should have the same slope, so it's the -7/4. What is the slope of the perpendicular? Since this is negative, this will be positive and be the reciprocal, so positive 4/7. And that is the end there of homework day 17.